Welcome back to Giggles and Glutes, the podcast where we break down fitness, health, and all things female with a little bit of sass and science. I'm Zoe.
And I'm Danae, and today we are getting into a topic that people love to overcomplicate: insulin and weight loss.
Yep, this one has been on my mind for a while now, especially because I've been testing out the UltraHuman. It's a continuous glucose monitor, if you don't know what that is. And for the past 3 weeks, I've been using a CGM basically. So spoiler alert, it was interesting, but also kind of overwhelming. But we'll get into that much later in the episode.
Also, can we talk about how every second wellness influencer is suddenly terrified of oats? Like the first thing they say is like, that will spike the insulin. You're just like, okay, Susan, calm down.
And that's one of the biggest lies, that oats will spike your insulin. Oh my gosh. So today, we're asking the question, is insulin actually making you fat? Or are we misunderstanding it? Just because it turns out insulin is not the villain we've actually made it out to be.
In this episode, we are breaking down what insulin really does, when exactly it becomes a problem, and how you can work with your body to manage your blood sugar without losing your mind.
Yeah, we will look at diet trends, hormones, strength training, and some real client patterns we've seen in our work, especially with women, of course. Navigating weight loss and metabolic changes like menopause.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. What is insulin and what does it actually do?
Quick science lesson. Insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas. The pancreas makes hormones, by the way, to help move glucose out of the blood into the cells where it can be used for energy.
Exactly. So it's not evil. It's literally how your body processes food. And it also helps you store energy and build muscle, which means that it's actually doing a great job, and we should love.
Yeah. The issue actually, or mostly really, comes in when the insulin levels stay high for too long, too often, which can lead to insulin resistance. But it's totally normal to have a spike after you've just eaten something, even something that's completely healthy.
So there's also a really big myth that says if your insulin is up, you can't burn fat. And then you're like, yes and no.
Yeah, because technically, fat burning does slow down when insulin is high, but the bigger picture is energy balance. You know, if you're in a calorie deficit overhaul, you will lose fat, even if insulin goes up and down during the day.
Also, there's those temporary spikes that matter in the overall pattern. So it's not just that one bowl of oats.
Yeah. So please eat your oats. Seriously.
I'm going to put on a t-shirt that says, eat the oats.
At the back of mine, I'll get yes printed on it.
So you're probably wondering, when does insulin actually become a problem? So insulin resistance is a very real thing, and it can often lead to weight gain, crazy cravings, and also energy crashes, which is very common among women with PCOS or what premenopausal.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of women who were doing everything right, but were dealing with insulin resistance. And in those cases, we need a more targeted approach.
And that's where your strength training, sleep, walking after your meals, and basically stabilizing your meals do actually make a massive difference. And I promise you that once you start adding or focusing on these few things, you'll see a massive change actually.
Yeah, that is really true. So the next thing that we want to look at is diet trends and insulin. Do they help, or is this just hype? Like low carb, keto, fasting. These are all tools but they're not magic and they're not for everyone. And like we say on this channel, again, I'm going to say, just because something's working for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but there are broad guidelines that guide everything basically. So your body might not respond to one of these diets. And like we also say, this shouldn't just be a diet. This should be your way of life. Because what happens when you stop doing one of these fad diets and you want to resume eating normally, but your normal for so long was this diet, and now you don't have a real normal to fall back on, and that's where you end up gaining or regaining all the weight that you've lost.
Again, also just to listen to your body. If you are feeling great doing a low carb diet, then cool, good for you, carry on doing that. But if a low carb diet is actually making you feel miserable, extremely exhausted, and you're actually afraid of eating fruits, then maybe it's not the best thing for you, and that's okay.
Yeah. And you often see women cut carbs too low, and it tanks their energy and their performance and even their mood, like we've spoken about previously. Carbs are not the enemy. Insulin isn't either. And
Amen.
you need to find a balance between the two.
Yeah.
Okay. Point number 5 is then, how do you manage insulin without having to obsess over it? So here's where the CGM comes in actually. I wore the UltraHuman Glucose Monitor for 3 weeks.
That was everything.
So the data was fun. I liked seeing how my body responded, and I liked looking at data and stuff afterwards. But honestly, didn't teach me much about the way I actually eat, which was a bit of a letdown. It's like I don't have these huge inconsistent spikes. I do have a lot of crashes where my glucose goes too low, which is also not ideal because obviously you want to maintain stable glucose for most of the time. But I know that when I have Coke, oh my gosh, it goes above 120 milligrams per mole. It goes like proper high. So mostly sugary drinks was my biggest thing. That was sending my thing crazy. And over Easter, obviously, I had hot cross buns. I had hot cross buns. I had these little Lindt chocolate Easter balls and stuff like that. That's where I was seeing lots of spikes. But honestly, once you buy the CGM sensor, you get 2 sensors with it. And one sensor only lasts for 2 weeks or 14 days, and then you have to change it out. So it's 149 pounds for the 2 sensors. And then on top of that, you only get the first 2 weeks free. And then after that, you have to pay for the data on the app. And that's 22 euros a month, which is, I think, insanely high.
Yes, very, very much so, actually.
I mean, you're getting data from the app, yes, but the data's pretty basic. And also, you can go into the app and then you have a live tracker of what your glucose is doing, right? And then at the bottom, you have your basal temperature, and then you got a little, oh, you can't see, sorry. So at the top, you have like your glucose, and then you have this little line here, and then you have your body temperature, and then you have like a little timeline. And then if you have the UltraHuman ring, you can integrate your activity and all of that stuff into the app. But if you have only the glucose sensor, you can't include your activity and stuff like that. So every time you have to insert it. You have to manually insert your workouts and stuff like that, which is annoying because when you work out, it also sends the insulin into a hyperglycemic event. When you work out, obviously, because your body is releasing lots of sugar into the bloodstream in order to power your workout. So when you're working out, your insulin goes like sky high. And then obviously I will have to manually go back and say I was working out during this time, where I don't know why it doesn't just pull that data through from the health app if it's doing it for the ring. It's the same app.
Yeah,
But in any case, I
this is
digress.
how they want to track you, though. There's always the underlying cost. So basically, in a nutshell, if you don't have the ring, then this won't really give you all the information that you need. Like, you actually need both in order to make it work. Convenient.
Technically, yeah, to make it convenient, yes. You technically need the ring so that it can pull the data from the health app. And then you also have to add your food manually, which we spoke about. I'm not really the tracking girl, in order for you to really see what is disturbing you. But what I do is I usually eat something and then immediately just go spend like a minute or so, 5 minutes later, going through the app and seeing, knowing what I ate, how my body responded to it. That's how I've been getting a workaround, not having to manually go and insert what I'm eating. Yeah. But for most people, balanced meals, managing their stress, getting a good amount of sleep, and lifting weights does more than a CGM ever will.
That's very true. So what does a day of insulin-friendly eating actually look like?
Starting with protein and fiber, my besties. Pair carbs with meals, eat regularly, and move after eating when you can. That's that simple. After lunch, go for a walk. After dinner, go for a walk. It's the best thing that you can do. When we go out for dinner in the city, I'll say to Andy, let's park here so that it's a distance away from the restaurant. And then we can walk back, and then it doesn't just feel like you get out of the car, in the restaurant, back in your car, driving home, back home, in bed. You're still getting to walk for a little bit. So, yeah.
That's actually a cool thing to add for people. The cool thing to do is actually walk a little bit far so that you can walk after your meal. Another thing that I think both of us have seen a lot of is that women have gotten into this mindset of blaming carbs for everything. Even though there could be a real issue of undereating or overeating and no time for recovery, it's always just the blame on carbs. And I think that's why it's the first thing to go always. Because everybody views it as the enemy,
Yeah. Or in another case, they're doing everything clean, but their stress level is high, they're barely getting enough sleep or water, and that can impact your insulin as well.
And I think this is also the thing, is that people don't realize how much all of this is connected to one another. All of them, it's like the domino effect, and that's why we need to coach with context to make people understand that if this thing is not doing this thing, then this thing can't do this thing. So they need to be doing this thing together,
Yeah, your body is literally like a calculator. It's a system. Treat it with care, not punishment. Everything needs to be in perfect harmony with each other.
100%. And this obviously also requires effort, You need to put in the effort in order to make this work and be mindful of every single thing that you are doing. But we would love to hear from you if you've ever worn a CGM or you've ever cut out carbs when you were trying to lose weight. And DM us or leave us a comment in the comment section below and just tell us what exactly your experience was and how you figured your way around it or shifted your mindset. You might be able to help somebody else out there.
Yeah, for sure. And if this episode helped you shift your mindset, in particular around insulin, share it with a friend who needs to stop fearing her food. Let's stop demonizing carbs and start empowering women with knowledge. We all want to make informed decisions, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. And remember that carbohydrates is not the enemy, it's actually your best friend. And until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and most importantly, stay sassy.
And don't skip your oats, please.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.